Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulin Kareem. Alhamdulillah wa nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa natubu ilayh. Na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyi'atina a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'd, qala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Wa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطيع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. والله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We begin everything with Bismillah in the name of Allah. And we began all of our khutbahs with Alhamdulillah. And Alhamdulillah, just as a quick reminder for those of you who may be new to these khutbahs that I deliver or new to Islam who are listening, Alhamdulillah is not just praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's not just saying, oh, all praise is due to Allah, right? Or all praise is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's actually a form of shukr, a form of gratitude. And we have so much to be grateful for, right? If we were just to review just a little bit about what we need to be grateful for as we start our day, and we just start to go through it a little bit, you know, we're grateful just that we woke up this morning. Because there are people who went to sleep last night that didn't wake up this morning, and they passed away. And we're grateful that as we woke up, we realized that we're Muslim. And there are people, may Allah protect us all, that they went to sleep last night as Muslim. But they woke up this morning and they had lost their Islam. May Allah protect us. And we realize that we can actually open our own eyes. There are lots of people in the world who can't. They don't have the power to open their own eyes. Or if they have the power to open their own eyes, they can't see anything. And we open our eyes and we can actually see depth, color, shapes. And then we can lift our heads, and then we can lift our bodies, and then we can move, and we can feel safe and secure. Just imagine the news that keeps coming in from international sources. You know, we can feel safe and secure that there's nothing over our heads that's going to bomb us and drop a bomb on us that's going to just engulf our entire house in fire and destroy our family. So when we say Alhamdulillah, it's not only as, as a form of praise, but it's actually as a form of shukr, a gratitude. That there is so much for us to, even just as we start our day, to be grateful for, and as we continue our day, to be more grateful for. And we should always be grateful. Today, inshallah, what I wanted to cover is a very short surah in the Quran. I do this at least once a year, at least in every place that I give khutbah in. And that's Surah Asr. Right? And the reason why I want to cover it, it'll become clear in the second part of the khutbah, but there's enough historical context as to the importance of it. Imam Shafi, rahmatullahi alayh, he was of the opinion that this is 1/3 of knowledge. Right? That this surah, Al-Asr, is so important that if people could grasp it, that they would be okay for 1/3 of what they need to know in life. And then, even more importantly, Abdullah bin Abbas, radiallahu anhu, he was a Sahaba. For those of us who don't know who he was, if the name sounds so unfamiliar, Abbas radiallahu anhu was the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Abdullah was his son, radiallahu anhu. And Abdullah bin Abbas was always attached to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, even till his dying moments, right, when that story is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was being carried out of his house to the masjid to pray salah, and on one arm he had his arm on Ali radiallahu anhu, and the other one was on Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu. So he was always attached to the Prophet ﷺ and was learning from him at all times. So Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anh, was of the opinion that if only this surah was revealed, if this was the only surah that was revealed, and people understood it, and they took from it what they needed to take, that this would be enough. So the historical context is enough for us to review this surah at times and to try to understand. So the very first words, wal asr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing, and He swears a lot in the Quran. We mean swear, we don't mean that He's using bad words. What we mean is that, when you really want someone to pay attention and you want them to, what happens when someone doesn't believe you? Right? Someone doesn't believe you, you say, I swear by God, or I swear by my mother. Right? You want to emphasize a point, that's when you swear by something. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing, and He does this throughout the Quran. He says, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, right? I swear by the sun, and as the daylight breaks out, right? وَاللَّيْلِ, I swear by the night. He swears by a lot of the physical creation. And this physical creation, time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in this surah swearing by probably the most important thing in our lives. Right? The one thing in our lives that we can't ignore, the one thing in our lives that's constantly running, the one thing in our lives that we have to pay most attention to is time. So it's a very important way to begin the surah, right? It's not an average way to begin a surah, it's the most important possibly way to begin the surah. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. For sure, guaranteed, absolutely, 100%, mankind is at a loss. Now, we don't really understand this until we perhaps pass away or see others pass away, and we are close to their deathbed as they're passing away, and we ask them, what do you regret? Right? And they say, wasted time. Right? We regret the time that we didn't do this, the time that we didn't do this, the time we forgot to do that. Right? We really don't get the value of this. The narration in the tafsir, it's like, the example was brought up that if you imagine someone selling ice in the middle of the desert. Right? Khus, that word khus, related to that concept that once it's gone, if you imagine selling ice back in those days without refrigerators, without freezers, etc., once it's gone, it's gone. Right? If you didn't sell that ice, you as a merchant have lost not only the value that you could have gotten from using that ice or selling it, but the ice itself is gone. You can't recover it. It's melted. So it's an important concept. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts this particular surah is really hard-hitting. If we can take this concept that Allah is swearing by the time that all of us are at a loss for, because we can't recover it. And then He goes on to say, but there are exceptions. There are people who don't suffer this loss. There are people who actually not only don't suffer this loss, they can actually benefit by this same time. And who are those people? The very first people are those who believe. Right? Those who believe, and we'll get into believe into what, etc. But it's, the 6 pillars of faith: believe in Allah, believe in the prophets, believe in the books, the angels, etc. Right? Those who believe. And then they, because of their belief, or in order to enhance their belief, they start doing good deeds. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And may Allah make us of these people who do good deeds, right? There are people who believe, right? Where they say we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we're not going to pray. Right? We know these people. Personally, we know people. We believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we're not going to do X, Y, Z deed. We're not going to fast. We're not going to pay zakat. Right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't just say except those who believe and then stop the surah. He said except those who believe and do good deeds. So we have to understand that doing good deeds is a part of what will save us from being at loss. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues. And He says, and those who speak the truth. Right? Those who speak the truth to who? Right? First of all, you have to be truthful to yourself. You have to be authentic, genuine. Right? You can't be a hypocrite and lying to yourself all the time. Right? Speaking the truth about your own deeds to yourself. Realizing the truth about your own character to yourself. And then whatever needs to be fixed goes back to Amil Salihat. You go back to fixing yourself. And obviously you need to speak the truth to your family. And obviously you need to speak the truth to society and speak the truth possibly to governments and speak the truth in a worldwide setting. But it starts with yourself, right? And it never ends, by the way. Right? Speaking the truth to yourself, being genuine to yourself, reviewing how you behave yourself and what kind of character you're developing yourself and what kind of values you have yourself, this never ends. You have to constantly renew and go back and fix things. And that's why the last part of this surah becomes so important. Because it's what tawasaw bil haqq, you speak the truth, and then when things get tough, or maybe things just get boring, it's a long time that you've been speaking the truth to yourself. And it's boring speaking the truth to yourself. You're tired of it. Or there's societal challenges. There's people who don't like you speaking the truth publicly. There's dark clouds. There's people who are actually trying to suppress the truth. And you're trying to speak it. And at all those times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Right? Those who patiently persevere in these efforts to believe, in these efforts to do good deeds, and in these efforts to speak the truth. Those are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said they are not at a loss. Those are the people that will be saved, inshallah. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us of those people who believe properly, who are not afraid of doing good deeds, have the courage to do good deeds, who speak the truth, and when the going gets tough, patiently persevere in this. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will accept your prayers and forgive you your sins. Yudu Allah yaghfir lakum dhunubakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all the worlds. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to please send His peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. We're going over Surah Asr. It's a very simple surah in the Quran, very short, right? One of the shortest surahs in the Quran. Simply, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Wal Asr, Inna al-insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqq, wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I swear by time, everyone is at a loss. Everyone. Except those who believe, those who do good deeds, those who speak the truth, and those who patiently persevere. So why are we talking about this? If you remember, we finished 2016, my khutbah in 2016, at the end of it was that we were so grateful, so happy that the Muslims were doing so much in the world. Right? There has never been more mosques in the world than possibly now. Right? There's never been more Muslims in the world, definitely. There's never been more masajids. There's never been more efforts to go and be in political offices and to start businesses and all these great things that Muslims are accomplishing. And all that was great. And the very next khutbah was that that's all great, that's quantity, but quantity alone won't solve all of our problems. We actually need good quality of Muslims too. We need people who are in political office that are not afraid, once they're in political office, to speak truth. Right? And we can't rely necessarily on everyone who gets there. We have to work on ourselves and them to make sure that they have that ability. Not only in political office, in business. If you have the greatest Muslim business owners and they're all liars and cheaters, it's not going to work out well for us in any way, shape, or form. Right? So in everything we need quality. And then we talked about later on in the khutbah in February, I believe we talked about why do they hate us so much? The non-Muslims who do hate us, not all non-Muslims hate us, but why do certain people want to suppress Islam? It's this concept of the fact that the Quran was revealed in justice, right? And everyone had to fall in line with that justice, and those people don't want to talk about justice. They want special rules for themselves. And finally, we left off last khutbah that I talked was about Surah Furqan and how the reason why calamities happen to us, the reason why problems fall upon us at the end of the day is because this Quran, right? The Prophet ﷺ pointing exactly on the Day of Judgment and saying, look, my people abandoned this Quran right here. Right? So we always got to go back to the Quran. And in the Quran, this surah helps us focus. the entire topic of this khutbah is around focusing, right? We are not left alone in this world, right? Shaitan promised Adam al-Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I will sit on the path, on Sirat al-Mustaqim, in front of them and behind them, and all around them. And I will try to distract them. So we have this idea sometimes as Muslims that as long as I don't sin, I'm a good Muslim, I'll be okay. But even if you don't sin, Shaitan's still going to come to you from some angle. Right? He might not get you to sin, but he might get you to waste your time. Right? This surah started off by swearing by the value of time. This is how this surah helps us to focus, refocus every single time. Right? Because it starts off with the most important concept that, look, life is short. You got a lot to do. You don't have time to waste. In video games, in movies, Bollywood movies, Hollywood movies, right? Constantly watching them. In Pakistani dramas, Egyptian dramas, serials. Great stuff. Touches your heartstrings. Fantastic. But do you really have the time to constantly go back to more and more and more of those? And Allah is saying, no, you don't have the time to constantly go back. I know everyone enjoys these things, but there is a focus on time that starts the surah off that is so important. And then after that, the focus shifts to belief. Because you might be new Muslim, right? You might be a new Muslim and you need to first believe correctly. But really, it's not the new Muslims that are so much of a concern. The number one people, by the way, who leave Islam, the number one people, are who? Lifetime Muslims. Something affects their faith. Something breaks them. Maybe it's the news about kids in Syria. And they're so tired about hearing about kids in Syria and Gaza and Iraq and Burma and Kashmir and Somalia. And they just say, there can't be a God. A'udhu billah. If, by the way, if your belief is strong and you study the Quran and you study what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says about those who pass away in those situations, right? If we could see the heavens open up and the angels descend with buckets of musk and how they take those kids into their loving arms and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises the entire concept of Shahada, and those kids are lifted up into a special place in Jannah and put into the hearts of green birds right away, and that they're not asked, they're not questioned, they're not, nothing, no trial. That these kids are in such a blessed place, all of us would be jealous of them. That doesn't mean we want horrible things to happen to them. But if we had strong belief, then we would not be depressed when we hear this news necessarily. We would be in a different state. The state that we should be in is what can we do for them? Right? Well, how can we take this opportunity that Allah is providing to us to try to get our own good deeds? Right? In the most minimal way, by the way, I'm taking up some more time, but the most minimal way, it requires no physical effort on our part, just requires some of our time and some of our effort, is dua. Right? If we are not making dua for these children, if we're not waking up in the middle of the night, forget about just making dua after prayer, but how hard is it for us to wake up in the middle of the night and make dua that Allah relieves the suffering? Then we really can't be asking what else, right? Everything else comes afterwards. Giving your money in charity comes afterwards. Going over there physically to help comes afterwards. The most minimal thing we can do for anyone who is suffering around the world is to make dua that Allah relieves their suffering. So try to do that at least. Start off with that amul salihat. And if your belief is strong, don't worry about those who are passed away. Allah has promised them great things. And those who are suffering today, Allah has promised them great things. Worry about what you are doing for them. Because Allah has also promised that if you're wasting your time and not doing something productive, positive for them, that there's a promise for you too, and it's not so great. Right? So we have to worry about our promises that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for us. The doing good deeds will help us with our belief. When you go and help someone, your iman will rise. Right? When you do something good for someone, your iman will rise. And we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He renews our iman, refreshes it, and makes it strong so that we don't fall into disbelief. Obviously, speaking the truth, we talked about that already. But finally, the last piece, the most toughest piece, right? Everyone can do this if it's one time. If it's a sprint, and I asked any of you right here, hey, we need to run from here to across the street, 100 meters, let's go. Everyone would be able to do it one time. But if I said, well, we need to do that today, and we need to do it tomorrow, and we need to do it the next day, then slowly the crowds would start getting thinner. People wouldn't show up for the sprint. Tawasul bis sabr. We have to patiently persevere in these efforts, and we have to keep going back. Keep going back to our salah. Keep going back to other good deeds. Keep going back to helping other people. Even if we see no change, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't aim for change. We should. But even if we don't see any change physically, we need to persevere in these efforts so that we qualify as what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, these people are not in loss, those people who believe, those people who do good deeds, those who speak the truth, and those when the times get tough, when things get boring, when things get long in their lifetime. The Quran says, there was a long period of time when they were believers and then they lost their iman, right? We persevere and we help each other to persevere. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who help each other to persevere. Allahumma gfirli wal muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat al-ahya min wal amwat innaka samiyyun mujibud da'wat. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barakta ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Ibad Allah, servants of Allah, Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba. Indeed, Allah orders us to be just and to excel and be generous, to take care of our family and relatives. Wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi. Never do what is forbidden of all sins and do not transgress. Ya'izukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. He Almighty advises you so you can remember. Aqimus salat.